So, women's health to me is,
What does women's health mean to me? That's a good question.
Women's health is like so fluid and changing throughout our entire life, and something like we always need to just be adjusting to and be present with like what we're going through and how we can balance and like be our most vital selves.
women's health to me is really like my personal choice of how I take care of my health and my body.
Yeah, I think of it like in correlation kind of with your hormones, but I also just tend to think about your period too, to be honest. Like that's where my mind goes when I think of women's health.
Stuff like periods and like getting hormones and maturing and just puberty in general and such.
Oh, that's just part of being a woman. You just have bad periods. It's like, okay.
Women's health and the difference between men and women's health became important to me when really I was very young, because I realized that my body was changing, and I didn't have the information back then to know why, but I didn't even know the word hormones, I don't think, at that time, maybe when I was 13. But I knew that there had been a huge shift in myself, and I always thought that I would need to seek out help and care in my health, and if I ever had children, to be able to decipher the changes in my body, which I now know were hormonal changes.
Well, I think they're like little messengers, and they act all over my body, helping to keep me in balance. And then, you know, the caveat to that is that like when they're not in balance, it creates a lot of challenges. Yeah, but they just play a role in like all of my functioning, from like the way I think to, and influenced by what I do and what I eat, and it's huge.
So when I think of hormones, I mean, amongst many other things, body hair and sweating.
I think I've been thinking about hormones my whole life, but more specifically in my late teens and early 20s, dealing with mental health and wanting a more holistic approach about how to deal with that. Did a lot of research about hormones and how they govern your brain and your chemicals and your thyroid and everything that goes along with mental health.
I think hormones regulate things like, I guess more, I think of your period generally, but also like regulating like weight gain and loss and like skin, and I'm not really sure exactly what they do though, to be honest.
What do I think hormones do in my body? Wreak havoc. Cause me, oh gosh, what do they do in my body?
Well, every month they make me sad and then happy again, I'll tell you that much.
I think hormones are, something that we realize the effects of immediately, but we don't always know how to, kind of make the adjustments to the changes that are happening.
I'm learning all these different stages that are happening to me, and so it's always a new mystery, and I'm trying to figure out and understand and know why it happens.
My parents didn't offer a lot of information up front, and when I did ask, it wasn't always the answer that I was looking for. So most questions about my health I probably got from either a magazine or a peer.
It would have been really nice if we could have talked about that, and it might have seemed like, oh, maybe it was awkward or something when I was young, but in reality, when like you start coming up against those like different, stages of your life, like those are things that you want to know about, and from someone that's like a trustworthy source.
What was really difficult was just anything to do with the body in general, whether it be hormones or the stages that you go through, or sex. My parents never really broke anything down to me. It was kind of had to figure it out on my own. My dad was always just randomly, without context, telling me what dirty dogs men were, but with no explanation. It's like, oh, thanks, but I don't know what to do with this information right now. And my mom would just never talk about like how babies are made or anything like that. She one time told me that her mother told her that babies came out through the armpit. So, so I had a lot to learn on my own.
In my 20s was the first time I went to like a Planned Parenthood or whatever, and it was a great experience because I didn't have a lot of, I hadn't learned anything about sexual health since I was in high school, and I hadn't done any sex since I was ever, and so a Planned Parenthood experience was wonderful because it was like I could go, no one was judging me, and I could get what I needed to take the next step in my life, which was having sex, and
It would make so much more sense if you became sexually active and then got your period. But the fact that it happens the other way around, it's so confusing. And you're stuck in this limbo between being a little girl and becoming a teenager. And I think that's just the weirdest thing that happens to you. And it's unavoidable, but I think more communication with the adults in that child's life makes a huge difference, because I could imagine that if you didn't have a mom like I had that was so open about that change in that part of your life, then I think it would be borderline terrifying.
I didn't feel like there really was anyone there that was safe enough to ask questions, and I also didn't know what questions that I should be asking or could be asking, because I really didn't think there was any difference between boys and girls in our health. Our bodies were a little bit different, but I thought our health it's the same. Boy, was I wrong.
In 5th grade, we had one day where it was split up boys and girls, and it was this weird 90s home video that we watched that was just like, sometimes I get cramps and sometimes I'm hungry when I'm on my period, and that's basically it. It didn't say anything at all, and that was all I got.
5th grade we had like a whole day where it was like boys in one room, girls in another room, and we were learning about like what was going to happen to us, and that just set me on a course of like, oh my God, I can't do this. It was terrifying.
I took Health B in high school, which is the health class that you didn't need your parents' permission slip to take. And it was just very surface level health stuff, like, eat good stuff, stay healthy, do exercises. So my answers mainly came from reading novels, some romance novels here and there.
If I could go back in time and tell an 11-year-old me about women's health and hormones, I would just want her to know that there's so many contributing factors into what's going to make you happy and healthy and strong and live a good life. And so I would, just keep asking questions and keep looking for the answers.
I would like to go back to when I was 15 and I had to be put on birth control pills. I had an emergency room visit with severe cramps that they said, well, we should put on the pill. I wish that I would have said, hey, let's do something better. Let's change your diet. Let's go see someone who can maybe help with hormone balancing, because I think my hormones were so out of whack that my cycles were off. And they kept assuming that we all have the same exact cycle, which I have a longer one. I'm not in tune with the moon. I would love to go back and tell, like, there's other approaches to this.
If I could go back in time and tell myself something, it would be that, like, it is all normal and it will feel very different. Things will change and stuff, but it'll even out. And I really think it is a lot easier if you reach out to people around you, because there is support and people are willing to talk to you about your health and stuff if you, like, reach out and tell them that you're feeling a certain way.
Don't be embarrassed about what's happening to you. I mean, even as like a little kid, the thought of like growing up seemed horrifying to me. So all the preparation that I had been given about puberty and like these are these wonderful things that were happening will happen seemed terrible. So I think that later in life you realize it's not that bad, it's fine, and you just need to like pay attention to your body, take care of yourself.
We have the ability to create life and all that comes with it, whether it's painful at times, vulnerable at times, like emotional at times. It's really a beautiful thing that we get to experience and kind of like tune in when it is your time of the month, because I feel that's when we really get to the deepest part of ourselves.
I hope to talk to my children about everything and tell them everything. Age appropriate, of course, but I don't want them to be as stunned and clueless and alone as I felt growing up. The best advice is just to keep talking. That's all I have to offer. Just keep talking, keep asking questions. And when in doubt, read a romance novel.
I love being a woman. I think, but I love men too. I love the differences between men and women. And but when you really think about women's roles and what we offer to this planet, I'm just so proud of being a woman.